What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Dead Noise. I'm Chris, and thanks to the power of Zoom, I am here speaking with Mr. Tyler Shelton, the lead vocalist of the Florida-based deathcore band Traitors. How are you doing today, sir?
I am pretty freaking awesome, man. Thanks for having me out. I appreciate it.
So the new album Phobias comes out February 21st, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is kind of meant to be a conceptual successor to Night Terrors.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. So definitely a big direction that I feel like Traders kind of skipped a beat on. People love Night Terrors. It's a cult release for people. Obviously, there's a lot of horror fans in metal music as well, and I feel like tying those concepts together, especially 10 years ago now, was such a brilliant idea. And yeah, we made Phobias to be kind of like that successor to Night Terrors. It's definitely it's just got a lot of punch to it, and it's really picked up compared to the Night Terrors EP. Night Terrors EP was a little bit more slower paced, but still groovy, and it still hit. But I feel like Night Terrors stands will love this album for sure.
Was that a conscious decision to revisit that sound for like an anniversary type of thing, or was it just something that you felt like had to happen?
I feel like the planets aligned. Everything that's happened with the band, from member changes all the way to uh, what we want to use for our lead foot music wise. I feel like for a while there, Traders was kind of stressed out. We were kind of chasing different sounds, and I kind of wanted to come back down to earth and just just really write from the heart lyrically. I was going through a lot at the time, and typically when I'm going through a lot at the time, I'm able to kind of shut myself away and take whatever I'm feeling and turn it into whatever I need it to be. So no matter what it is I'm going through, it doesn't really have to relate to the subject of the album or EP, but I'm kind of able to take that pain and that whatever I'm feeling, and I turned it into this. It's funny too, because like when I wrote Night Terrors, it's about a man who is dealing with sleep issues, and there's it's more about the cause of these things and what it's making that person do. I didn't realize I was projecting so much because when I was younger, I'm like, oh, that sounds sick. But now I'm grown up, I am actually dealing more and more with sleep issues, and I'm thankfully getting a bit more under control. But this album is kind of like the effect. Like what would have happened if I hadn't taken care of the sleep issues, so to speak, for 10 years. So it's like Night Terrors is the cause, Phobias is the effect, is the long-term effect of these things happening to a person.
Now, as far as the artwork goes, I love the cover of this new album. The longer I look at it, the more like entranced I am in all the different things that are going on in it. And it's a
Yeah.
very similar aesthetic and color scheme to that of Night Terrors. Did you have the same artist for it, or what was the direction with that?
So we didn't have the same artist for that. When it comes to album art too, like my guys are really good at like editing and just being like, "Hey, can you add this? Can you add that?" And I'm just like, "Let's just release the fucking music." But it is very important. It is very important to have that vibe. I mean, to have, somebody kind of honing in on your sound, and we let him listen to a few tracks, and that's what he came up with. And I'm like, dude, this is perfect. This is like I love this. So definitely crushed it on the art.
Oh yeah. So as a band, is it kind of a democracy as far as the some of the decision making, like with the artwork? Does somebody have a specific vision for what they want the cover to be, and it's just a matter of going from there?
Really like the conceptual stuff and all that sort of deal. At this point now, it boils down to what Alan and I want. But um, the person who wrote instrumentals and helped produce is Luke Fiadino, and he, when I can catch him in a certain mood, there's almost like when we write together, it's such a special thing because I use Discord now
Hmm.
to meet up with my band members to write because they now can stream a virtual cable straight into their DAW, which is like where they record their music. So I can hear every note with almost no audio offset now. and the fact that I don't have to meet up with them to write takes off the pressure, takes off, oh, I got to be gone for the day. It's almost more like we can come and go as we please. And I swear, Luke and I sat there for almost 5 months and hammered this thing out. And we would him and I would stay up till like 4 or 5 in the morning sometimes, and we would just kind of geek ourselves out and just be wired because we wanted to bring that vibe to the table. And there's just so many cool elements with this whole thing, and a lot of it comes from um like genuine sleep deprivation. We put ourselves in that position. I'm writing underground deathcore music, but at the end of the day, it's like there's so much put into these recordings and into these studio sessions. It's like you almost forget. It's so derealizing sometimes. You're just like, all right, gotta get up, gotta do it again. And it's such a different process than writing other things because it's the opposite of positive. I mean, that's just it can be very tolling, but it's worth it.
And you also, from what I've heard from you guys, you also don't stay in one box sonically. Like you're always like changing things up with your sound to a certain degree. I know you specifically are very like inspired by hip hop and like you grew up listening to stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and there are a couple like elements of that instrumentally on this album. So how do you find the way to mix two completely different ends of the sonic spectrum together like that?
Honestly, I feel like when you have roots in something, no matter what music you're writing, I feel like it'll always be there. So like especially for Luke and I, we really love like 90s hip hop stuff, and it really shined through with his writing. And it can be tough to meld metal and hip hop together without it sounding like it's going to end up on Catatonic Youths. So like, it can be really good or it can be like super cringy. So I was just like, I didn't want to do like cool guy trap metal hip hop. I kind of just wanted to add some like kick and snare stuff in the background, or um how in hip hop there's like back in old hip hop a lot of the hooks were just a couple of words, just repetitious. So there'll be a couple songs that you hear where it's a lot of underneath and in the background you can hear me kind of like uh doing a line. I know our song Trauma Bond has one. I know everybody suffers with it, but they just can't shake it, and it just keeps on saying it over and over again with a cool beat. But yeah, I love putting those two genres together. It can be challenging at times, but lyrically, like Traitors has always had rhyme schemes. I mean, I was raised by two older sisters. When I was 4 years old, they were 18. So they showed me Juvenile and Splack Pack and Two Live Crew, just all this severely inappropriate hip hop, like ass shaking, like sweaty booty prints on cement hip hop. Like that was the shit, dude. And when I was growing up too, I was listening to a lot of Florida hip hop and I didn't even know it. Like stuff out of Miami, like Splack Pack and Two Live Crew, and that shit was so dirty for the 90s. Like it was so inappropriate. And I just loved it. I ate it up. I was the Kool-Aid kid listening to Uncle Luke and shit. So it shines through in almost everything I write nowadays.
That's so funny because like when I think of Florida, it's hard to like pin down a specific genre or tone just because it's such a mixed breeding ground for musical talent. Like if you
Oh
look at the
yeah.
history of the state, you got country, and just in the rock world, you got like Less Than Jake with ska. Marilyn Manson started making music in Florida. Creed, of course. Um, but then
Got
you
to have
have
them.
like you guys, and then the modern like metalcore like Weird Wolves and Fame on Fire and all these other bands. So what's it like for you to like come up in a state with such a diverse musical background?
I mean, I think it really boils down to um how you manifest things. I really feel like a lot of how people are raised up too has a lot to do with their musical upbringing. I mean, especially like I said, with my sisters influencing me so much. But I'm from a really small town that was not known for being a very musical. Uh, I mean, a lot of the kids I went to school with and stuff, or I was kind of one of the very few ones that took music more seriously. Like I said, it's a really small town. I'm actually from the same town that the YouTuber. You ever heard of Danny Duncan?
I know the name.
Yeah, so he's also from my town, Englewood, and I just feel like that place has a knack for uh just being one of those little towns that create people that just want to get out of it. And
Mm.
I had a lot of ambition, and I still love my little town, but I'm glad to be out of there for sure. But yeah, Florida's awesome musically. I just feel like I followed my own path and tried not to get too influenced by outside things, so it wouldn't show up too much in my music. And I feel like that's why hip hop really helped for the writing process my whole life because I loved metal so much. Like I still kind of listen to it, but I'm trying to create my own sound, so I don't want to get like I loved Gojira so much. I remember talking to the guys in Traitors and being like, "Can we just sound like that?" Because I fell in love with it. Like there are two bands I have followed religiously, and it is System of a Down and Gojira. Those are like my two like System of a Down was the first time I decided not to pirate music because I'm 32, so I grew up with Kazaa and LimeWire, like before, and Napster. Napster didn't last too long, but I was ripping stuff and back in the day when it took like 45 minutes to download one 3 megabyte song. So
Jesus.
yeah, dude, it was wild back then. If you had 1 megabyte of internet speed, it was probably like $500 a month back then, I would bet. Like
Oh
it's ridiculous. But
gosh.
but yeah, yeah.
I always see the memes of like you try to download a Linkin Park song and you end up like completely ruining your family's computer. Um,
Oh yeah, dude. I definitely download and there's a lot of songs on LimeWire and it's how Soldier Boy got big. He changed every popular song to crank that Soldier Boy. The man's a
that's amazing.
genius. Was a genius. He had a whole army out there. And you would try to get Sad But True from Metallica and it would just be crank that. Man's smart. I mean,
Oh
that is
my
like
gosh.
7 steps ahead.
That's
So,
crazy. See, I'm 25, but like
mhm.
I remember like my parents having MySpace and like I vaguely remember some of that stuff, but I was just a little bit before my time. So like I didn't have firsthand encounters with destroying my family's computer, thankfully. Um, but yeah, hearing stories like that, it's always so amusing for me.
Yeah.
Um, Now as far as the album goes, I know you've got the three singles, you got Break, Release, and SBC. It's very hard just from those three songs for me to pick a favorite,
Mhm.
both musically and lyrically. But as far as the stuff that's not on the album, is there a certain track that you're kind of excited for fans to hear?
Yeah. I really like Imposter a lot. Imposter it's like a shorter song, but it just captivates the street vibe the best that I want for Traitors. It's just so cool and it just makes you want to bob your head rather than like bang your head. I love that vibe. I love when music makes you feel like invincible temporarily. I love that. And it kind of just has that like everybody's bopping in the car vibe. So that and Trauma Bond
Mm,
um are really good. Very relatable and like we're back to like relatable lyrics. There was a lot of years where I was like after anger issues because I that's another phase of my life that where I was totally projecting my lyrics onto the world, but this is kind of back to that vibe where I'm just like really really pouring it out and like it's tough, man. It takes the life out of me like months after that. I'm just like, all right, I'm done writing for a while because
hmm
like I said, you got to go to a dark place to be able to to be able to write stuff. I don't like to do the tough guy shit. I tried it for a couple years, and I love to do like the wrestling stuff and shit like that, and on stage. So I know I'll always love doing the heavyweight champ stuff, but yeah, at the end of the day, these lyrics like they mean so much to me, but it doesn't give me any expectations. I mean, people are gonna take it as they will, and even though the message is very clear, people still have fun with it in their own way, which is fine by me. So.
As far as the non single tracks, Imposter is a highlight for me too, but I think if I had to pick a favorite, mine would probably be Deprive, from a lyrical standpoint mainly. So are there any stories from the making of that song that you can remember?
Yeah, so I'm gonna pull the lyrics up as well. So for Deprive, oh man, I was going through so much. Like I mean, especially for the whole album, but I'm kind of trying to play the song in my head a little bit. I honestly I was going through some stuff with my lady, and I had I had basically locked myself away like an hour and a half away for like 5 months, and I just went and I'm like, I need to go figure myself out. I didn't know where I stood in life mentally, physically. I was kind of like last year, start of the year, I was really just like losing my shit. There was a lot going on in the band. There was a lot going on in my personal life, a lot going on with my family. So I just felt like I almost felt like I've been doing this for like 11 years now, and it's just like maybe it's not enough. Maybe I should just give it up. And I'm just like, damn, that's pretty hard lyrics. I don't really I'm not like a really big self-deprecate guy, but I was at that point where it's like, you know what? People should hear this, so when they're feeling it, rather than act on it and be like, oh, woe is me, they can just listen to this song and move on. You know what I mean?
I also love the opening of No Witness. I'm not crazy, I'm just a little fucked up.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So that's actually a nod to the hate campaign. Our album that came out in 2014. Our one of our big lines was "We're all just a little fucked up." So it's good to it's kind of good to bring that back for the OG fans. I really feel like I'm at the end of the day, like I love getting new fans, but I feel like I'll always write music for the people that have supported me and have been there because I mean at this point now, I'm watching my fans have kids and I'm watching them raise families, and like Traitors is my kid. I don't have a child. I have Traitors. And I don't want to have kids because I don't want to go on tour and have somebody else raise them for me. I know that some people make that sacrifice, and I say they got a lot of balls for it. But yeah, at the end of the day, Traitors is my kid.
I like that. And that was something I wanted to touch on with the longevity of the band and how you guys seem to have a pretty close relationship with your fans, whether it's at shows or online. So passing the 10-year mark now, a couple years past it, how does it feel to kind of see also to have your fans grow up with you and also to see them have their own families?
It honestly is some of the stories that I hear is almost like why I'm still rocking this. It's after 11 years you'd hope that you have like that. For us it would be like a second or third big wave, a big moment. And I'm hoping with this album release, and we do have some special stuff lined up for later this year as well for fans. Definitely want to we're trying to get more frequent on releases rather than the long break that we had taken, which I honestly feel like ultimately damaged the band.
Hmm.
Since this album, we hadn't released a full length in almost 8 years, and that is a big no-no because I mean, we were releasing singles and stuff like that too, but I feel like the fans deserved another full length before that. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like watching my fans grow up is really the reason why I keep doing it, because there are some times where I'm like, man, I'm sick of fucking van touring and the struggle, the unknowing, not knowing what the next day will bring. Oh, this market's smaller. Oh, it's like some artists don't have to even worry about that. They can just pop up a show and sell it out in 20 minutes. And I'm working on other realms of music at the moment, not just death metal. I've been working on a few things I've had under wraps for a couple of years, haven't even released a band name, and I don't intend to until I know that the vision is set. And yeah, I just feel like metal, it can be a very gate-kept genre, and especially by the powers that be. They like to have things, they like to have the narrative a certain way. Um, it never hurts to pay for a manifested moment. There are definitely some labels that do a damn good job of creating the initial illusion for bands to be like, hey, this band is hype right now. And people catch on to that, and then they want to see how long you can ride that wave for.
Hmm.
And we're not a part of any labels, so we don't really get that kind of attention. But I know that deep down, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm still trying to do the TikTok stuff, even and that's closing down soon. I'm still trying to do content. I'm putting myself out there by any means necessary. Um, so I mean, really, at the end of the day, I just like to entertain. That's what I like to do for sure. So
You've done a pretty good job of it so far, I would say. Just as a new fan myself, I think it's really cool what you guys are doing, and I think you as a personality are very entertaining. I love
thank
the
you, man.
video of you were doing like a vocal tutorial and you were talking like this is Patrick Star vocals. I was like, oh.
Yeah, yeah. People want to know how to do my vocals, and the only reason I've heard a couple people get relatively close, but I put my speaking voice into that vocal range.
Hmm.
So that's what makes it unique, is unless you can do an impression of Tyler just talking, it's gonna be tough to nail that vocal because it makes your voice unique, you know? But I originally got that vocal range 2009 or 2011 when I started doing vocals. I was a huge fan of And Hell Followed With. There's an old death metal deathcore band. And he did this vocal range like two or three times on a whole album, and I'm like, I gotta do those. I gotta learn how to do those. But yeah, that's where I've heard them be called different types of animals: beluga, moose, cow vocals, walrus, pretty much anything large. So I mean, I'll take it.
It makes me think like, oh, you guys could probably do some sort of, I don't know how well the genres would mix, but maybe it'd be something interesting. Do some sort of work with Knocked Loose because a lot of people compare him to SpongeBob. So
Yeah.
have SpongeBob and Patrick vocals on the same stage.
So you're a smart guy. I like that. I gotta write that down.
Hey,
I'll
um,
I'll, ta I'll tag you. I'll tag you in the video.
hey, I appreciate it. Now I heard you say in another interview, I believe it was with Heavy New York, and it was about the album and the lyricism, especially. Like you said you felt like you had your creativity back and your voice back or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Um, what would you attribute that to?
I feel like the pressure on traders is very low now, and we're just here riding the wave. Sometimes pressure makes diamonds, but most of the time it makes fucking coal.
Mm,
And I feel like, especially in a writing setting, we took our sweet time. I have no fucking idea how bands will they'll all rush to meet up, and they'll be like in a cabin in the woods for 2 weeks, and they somehow pop out with an EP or album. I think that's crazy. I
yeah.
can't I can't rush that. Sometimes I'll be stuck on a song for like a week or two. And I want it to come from the heart. I don't want to push myself to have to write. I like to be prepared, and I would listen to those instrumentals, man, for days on end before something, first I'd mumble out the patterns I want, and that really helps you find cool lyrics because you kind of have to dig
Mm.
to make ends meet, to make things match up. But now that I'm like taking lead with the band, and I've got my vision that I've always had for Traitors, and it's healthy, and it's for the longevity of the band. So I really feel like that's helped me. Like, when it comes to creative control, I let my guys do what they want, and when it comes to my lyrics, they thumbs it up because it's coming from the heart and it's real, and they know that it crushes. I mean, at the end of the day, I love making we call not one-liners, we call them t-shirt lines. It's like that.
Mm.
We got to put that on a t-shirt. So
I I like that. It reminds
yeah,
me of when Ice Nine Kills did the Every Trick in the Book album, and they're like, we want every lyric to be tattooable. Um,
Right.
Kind of that same mentality. Now with the album, I found it sounded like there were like two distinct halves, two different sides of the album. Was that is that just me like looking too much into it, or was that like a conscious decision with the sequencing and how to put it all together?
I do feel like there's a almost like a character development. I really swing in and out of emotions, and it's like by the end of it, the last song being 10DXM is really it really just puts the icing on the cake. It's like at the end of all this, I'm still standing, but man, it's like my head's like not all the way on. I just
Hmm.
feel like, and that song was kind of about that, and I was wrapping the whole thing up. At the time, I was watching Sopranos for the first time when I wrote the album. So I'm like, how can I incorporate my dated like what I'm seeing every day? And it's like, oh, I kind of feel like I buried a bunch of bodies in my head. I'm like, well, I buried a bunch of emotions and I resurfaced them with the album, and I have to remember that I'd already conquered these things because for a while after writing about all these things, a lot of my old ways were popping back up, and I had to keep myself in check and keep them in control. So, um, 10DXM is kind of the cap on the whole thing. It's like, yeah, I'm still here, but yeah, I had to go, dig up all the old bodies, and now they're all decayed, and I got to do something else with them. So,
Find a new closet to put the skeletons in.
yeah.
Now, aesthetically and musically to a certain degree, you kind of touched on the horror influence that both Night Terrors and this album kind of have. Are
Mhm.
you a horror movie fan yourself, or was it just a certain thing about that medium, that form of expression that stuck out to you?
Not as a horror fan, I was not really a horror fan as a kid. I was incredibly sheltered. So I wasn't allowed to watch any R-rated movies as a kid for quite some time. But as I grew up, I watched some of the cult classics and stuff like that. And I've been with my lady now for almost I think it's almost 5 or 6 years now. And she opened the door to all actually it'll be 6 years in April.
Mm.
Um, she opened the door for me and she showed me from all the cringy stuff like Sleepaway Camp, like all the 80s cult stuff. And I just like kind of fell in love with just like laying there and just watching stuff like that all day because like the I don't know, just like the overall vibe of those movies, it's almost like it's like slapstick horror, and
Yeah.
it's whether they were trying to be ironic about it or not, where it like has its place in horror today is special. But yeah, my lady and I go to the movies a lot. We just watched the new Nosferatu. We watched it on Christmas morning or
Same.
Christmas night. It was very cool. Um, it's funny. My lady loves to watch horror movies if she really likes them. She wants to watch them first. So there was an early screening of Nosferatu Christmas Eve, and we're like, well, we've never been to this AMC theater. And I look it up, and there's like cockroaches in the photos and stuff. I'm like, can you wait a day? And she's like, I'll kick them off me, man. We got to go watch this shit. I'm like, please bear with me. So, but I can be a bit of a clean freak. I'm terrified of roaches, but yeah, I really love horror now, and it has a special place for me, especially um Jordan Peele's horror is like so locked in, and it shows you how many demons the funny guy is always dealing with at all times. I was
Hmm.
the class clown when I was in school, and I thought I was so cool for that. I got the most votes, funniest kid in school, and then my therapist was like, "You really want to know what that's about?" I'm like, oh fuck, dude, this guy's about to cook me, dude. And he did. He cooked me so hard. He cooked me so hard. He's like, you like being the center of attention, huh? I'm like, oh, dude, let me have it. Let me have it, dude. But
Oh my goodness.
yeah. But horror has definitely a more special place in my heart now.
Do you Do you have a favorite horror movie, or is that too tough of a decision to make?
I'd have to look back at the first time I was truly terrified of something, and Jeepers Creepers was probably one of the first horror movies that I had watched, and I was like, "Fuck this guy, dude." The concept, the regeneration, you can't do shit against a creeper, dude. He'll just when he eats that guy's tongue out of his decapitated, I'm like, this is fucking what a weirdo, dude. He there was a bit of romance in taking that tongue out of that dude's mouth, bro. I was 11. It had me fucked up. I was like, dude, no way. Absolutely not.
It's so funny you bring that up because last spring I was at a convention and I interviewed the guy who played the Creeper, and he's such a nice guy though. It was such like a
They
weird
always are.
juxtaposition, and it's like, yeah, I'm sure you know all about that being a deathcore vocalist.
Yeah, right.
But it was such a weird thing because like you see the pictures of him as the Creeper on this table, and then you're just talking to him. It's like, wait a minute, I saw what you did in those movies.
Yeah, you did some shit, bro. I saw what you did with that guy's tongue. That was a real long scene, pal.
Um, Now, would you say Nosferatu is your favorite recent horror movie so far?
Oh, I liked it. I thought it was really solid. When I think of recent horror, Barbarian is
Oh.
God, what a banger. I feel like when horror tries to get a little weird,
Hmm.
that's when it's got me like someone had to write that. Someone had to think of that.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
I think about that with the Terrifier movies all the time because like those are also really cool people, but then it's like, wait, I know how your mind works because I've seen what you came up with.
Right, yeah. I can't do over the top gore, and I know that Art the Clown specializes in making people want to leave the theater. I've
Hmm.
actually never watched a Terrifier film. I just can't really do like I watched I watched like the first and second Saw, but after that it kind of just became like torture porn a little bit.
Yeah.
I know that the story was still really good. Um, but the first Saw was great. I mean that was really cool, but never watched like Hostel or anything like that. I don't have the stomach for it, even though it's all plastic and corn syrup. It still makes me want to throw up. I'm not really good with those.
Do you looking ahead to like what's coming this year in 2025? I know at the time of this recording next week the Wolfman comes out from Blumhouse. And
Mhm.
that's a movie I'm really looking forward to. Are there any that are on your radar that are coming up?
Honestly, man, I know it takes some time, but I'm really really into the films that Jordan Peele's been making. I mean, I
Mm,
loved Us so much. He's such a brilliant mind, and it's so inspiring that he came from doing Mad TV skits to Key and Peele, which are skits that, are like are legendary for its time, all the way
mm.
to being able to produce and direct these award-winning movies. I mean, it's so inspiring to see. It's like you can do anything you want, you know? And I mean that's just like the type of stuff I strive for. I can do whatever, you know. You never know what's next. So,
You guys are going on a spring headlining tour with Crown Magnetar in support of Phobias, and it's a pretty
mhm.
stacked lineup, and it's a pretty long tour if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
How excited are you to go on that tour? And what are you expecting? How are you expecting the fans to react to the lineup, hearing the new songs live, and all of that?
I feel like our cult fan base especially is like really showing up. It's been a long time since we've done a headliner that was prepared this well, especially with an album being released. All eyes are on the performance of this tour, and I'm excited, but it's going to be a lot of work, especially being the headliner. Shout out to Yosemite and Black and Crown Magnetar for supporting us and believing in our dream. Because when you go out on a headliner, I mean, you got to handpick these bands and they got to be like, yeah, I'll play under you, and that's the issue with a lot of people when it comes to headlining. Like, people are only going to want to play under you if they really feel like you're hyping. So Crown Magnetar and Yosemite and Black taking this on, I don't think they'll, and I can tell them or even write it to them, but they have no idea how much it means to me that they still believe in my dream, because there have been a lot of bands that we hit up that just don't anymore. And I can completely understand, we're in a very strange realm right now, Traitors is. It's almost like we had to re-oil the machine. We had to start with a clean slate. People need to understand that Tyler Shelton is representing the band and that they need to meet this person before they get, this is networking industry wise. They need to meet me before they make before they make an assumption about, where my band lies, especially business wise. I mean, we're ready to work. We're ready to grind. I mean, that's what it is at the end of the day. I am very excited for the headliner, but there is definitely a lot of work to be done, and I just want to be on that second week and kind of have things felt out, see where the tickets are laying. It's a tough genre, dude. I mean, it is not easy to get over in a genre like this, especially with it still kind of being not as big as other genres. So
That's understandable. And if I'm not mistaken, did I hear that you also, as a band, you handpicked local support for each date too?
yeah, so obviously not every date it's not gonna be 100% success rate, but
Right.
we took those locals and we passed them on and let their local promoters know, like, we would like these guys for the run, or for the local show. So when we are handpicking these bands, like, I know that, and this really lays on the promoter at the end of the day, but I don't need you to sell 50. Like, back in the day, bro, like before Traders, if I didn't sell 50 tickets with my local band, they'd make you buy the rest out or you don't play,
Yep.
you know? So I don't expect that from people. If you sell tickets, good for you. And a lot of people are like, I still see a lot of people like, oh, you need locals. You need locals. No, I don't want to look at any band and say, "Oh, thank you guys so much for staying at this level so my band can make a paycheck." And I want to make it very clear. I don't want your band to be a local. I want your band to be successful. I want your band to not be a local band. I mean, if you want to be a local band and you don't want to take this too seriously, more power to you, man. I love that. But you don't have to go out there and bust your ass and sell tickets, because you're going to find yourself at that very same venue still selling tickets because you can. And I feel like people should know their value. And Traders played one local show. We were on tour 4 months after that.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, I with Traders never sold tickets for shows because I valued myself as more than that. We were already invested. We had all the gear. Everybody was ready to go. Um, but yeah, my advice to local bands, if you don't want to be a local band, stop playing local shows. I mean, I don't care what people, oh, that's not how the scene works. Well, it is in my world. Welcome to my world. I want you to be a successful band. I want you to be the reason why more people listen to this genre.
Now, before I let you go, this is my closing segment. It's my favorite part of every interview. I have a speed round for you. I got 5 questions. If you want to elaborate, you're more than welcome to. I'm not too strict with the speed part of this.
Yeah.
But the first question, your favorite song to play live?
My favorite song to play live right now would probably be SBC, from our new album. But I kind of feel like every time there's a new song out, you just get excited as a musician. So SBC for now.
Your favorite city to play in?
Dude, honestly, Greensboro has been showing up. Hangar is such a sick venue. I feel like the Carolinas are getting put on the map big time right now. And this is what happens when you go out and support a scene. You start to get results and effort. John Gruden said it. Effort takes no talent. You just got to go out there and show up for the bands, and guess what? You will start reaping the rewards. You go out and support, you know, your local venue. This is what you get. You start getting bigger packages because people come out. So. I'll have to say Hangers on my map right now.
Hey, your favorite tour memory.
De-Stress the US tour. Adalia, Barrier, Villains, Gift Giver, Traitors. Legendary beatdown lineup. Something that can't be replicated physically. Uh, that's just a tour that happened, and it was right at the end of the field trip era for
Hmm.
Traitors, like where things were kind of still like, what am I doing? So
Your favorite thing to do outside of music.
I love going camping. I love to get out and kind of touch grass for a little bit. When I'm home, I don't have many friends in Tampa, so I'm definitely home a lot, hanging out with my homies, playing games on Discord and shit like that, or making music.
That's cool. Um, and the last one, this is always my favorite one. The song you wrote that means the most to you.
If it was my earlier stuff, it would have to be Irreversible or Product of Hate. And
Hmm.
looking at the newer stuff, Imposters is really good lyrically. It means a lot. Um, Man, the whole album really stands out to me. I love the whole album lyrically. That's a tough one. That's a tough one for me.
That normally stumps some artists because I'm sure it's really difficult, especially with how personal like your lyrics are, to kind of like narrow it down to just one.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess if I had to narrow it all the way down, there's a song that we didn't release as a single on the Hate campaign. It was called Drown.
oh,
And that song really made me realize like my writing style and how I want to go about things for the future.
just like that, that was everything I had for you for this interview. Was there any closing message to any Traders fans watching?
Yeah, I think I've said this a million and a half times in the past few months, but if you're still listening, chances are you really like this band. And I really appreciate the shit out of you for that. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm on year 11. I'm getting a little tired. I'm getting a little tired. I'm definitely in the later rounds of Traders, but I honestly feel in my heart of hearts that if I ever decide to not tour uh, that I will always make music for Traitors fans. I don't think I'll ever stop that. I can record from home. There's no reason why I can't always provide music to the world just because I decided to hang up the gloves on touring with, deathcore music and I'm not foreshadowing anything because I have no plans of hanging up the gloves anytime soon. Um, I just want my Traders fans to always know that this music will always be here for you. I'll always make sure, especially to the cult fans, to release, cool numbered EPs or vinyls or, stuff like that. And there will always be a special place uh in my heart for the people that supported me. Like they I was able to convert to Traders full time in 2017, 2018 and make it my focus and not have to work a 9 to 5 and it's because of the people that listen to my music on the way to work or on the way home from work or however they support it like y'all changed my life, dude. And I'm going to keep leveling up. I'm going to keep trying to entertain. I've got some really, really amazing music in the works right now that is has nothing to do with death metal of or heavy metal of any sort. I can't wait to share it with the world. I don't want to give any information because there's not even a band name out there yet. But you definitely, this is just the beginning of my entertaining career.
Thank you so much for the time. Again, this was a great interview. I had a lot of fun talking with you, and
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate you.
congratulations. Congratulations on the album. I can't wait for the rest of the world to hear it. And to every Traders fan who watched this, thank you for watching. And until the next interview, stay tuned, stay scared, and I'll catch you later.